flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Sabers. Rice. Dosher. McCardle. Barrington. Allen. Sharks. Smith.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. Second reading on ordinance O 2022-01, repealing, readopting, and amending zoning regulations for cannabis establishments. If you remember our discussion last time is where you measure from. What is still in the ordinance is from property line, and it is the closest point of the property lines. Okay. Mr. Jenigas, fire away.
I'm just here to reiterate that Planning Commission recommended approval of this 5-0 with 2 absent. Like you said, it's property line. The 2 changes in this would be adjusting from Title 9 to Title 10 in the zoning ordinance, just fixing that mistake that was done, and then but excluding public right-of-ways is what's being taken out of the ordinance. I'll answer any questions that you have. The only thing comment that I've received since last meeting was from Mrs. Coomer, and you all received it as well, so, and she's here, so if you have any questions.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Okay.
If you'd like, then that's
Anybody that wants to speak to it, come on up.
All right, I'll try to make it quick. I myself got a pass for my wife, so we all want to get back and celebrate the rest of this holiday. So,
State your name.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm Nick Coomer.
Thank you.
I'm testifying in a neutral position of ordinance O 2022-01 as a partial owner of the property located at 409 East Juniper Ave in Mitchell, South Dakota. Section 101501 establishes the intent of Chapter 15 cannabis establishments. Per the section, the intent is to minimum the negative effects of cannabis establishments have on adjacent land uses, which acknowledges that there are negative effects on nearby landowners and businesses to wherever these cannabis establishments are located. Secondly, the section goes on to say that the intent is for the purpose of preventing a concentration of certain cannabis establishments in any one area. In other words, the higher the concentration in one area, the more negative impacts on the nearby landowners and business. My ask for you today is that you keep the established intent of these regulations in mind, continual change to these regulations in favor of allowing a higher concentration of cannabis establishments in one area of town or closer together only erodes away the well-intended intent of the regulations. With that being said, I do not necessarily oppose the ordinance number O 2022-01 is trying to do with the change in section 1015-6B. With my experience as a practicing architectural designer in South Dakota and my knowledge of what the industry standards is for measuring setbacks and other various ordinances, changing the code to include the right-of-way as part of the distance measurements between property lines is consistent with industry standards. What you are adopting tonight, with including the right-of-ways as part of the distance calculations from property line to property line, which follows industry standards, amending it to make the measurements from door to door does not make sense and is not practical and would require more oversight by city staff, which may not even be feasible. Property lines are the most consistent and do not easily change. They can be changed with a lengthy public process, but this is not common. Property lines are a legal distinction from properties, unlike doors. They are the most objective and not subjective to measure from. Building permits are very common, so are renovations to interior building layouts and future buildings / expansions on the properties, which often change the locations of the outside doors. If the measurement is from door to door instead of property lines, there's a chance that the outside door locations may change from one of the doors that the cannabis establishments are being measured against. Measuring door to door is not practical. It is also subjective in nature, and measuring from property lines, since locations of outside doors can easily change.
Hey, Mr. Coomer, you understand we're not doing door to door, right?
Yeah, I understand, but I think it's part
It
of
was a proposed amendment down the road. Okay.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
just want to make sure you understood.
it's just part of the conversation. I wasn't here on that last one. I would have mentioned it. I was in the surgery last meeting. So.
I just want to make sure you understood that.
Yeah, so I'm just commenting onto it.
Okay.
I think about what is practical, feasible, and objective, and think hard about the intents established in the section 1015-1, which acknowledges there are negative effects of cannabis establishments on nearby landowners and businesses. Those nearby landowners and businesses are your citizens that you are trying to protect with these Chapter 15 cannabis regulations, not the cannabis establishment owners. Continue to put the interest of these citizens first, which these regulations are currently written due. And that's essentially the end of that. Now, if you have any questions for me, I can try to field them the best I can. Let me know. All right, thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you.
Briefly comment, good evening,
Daly.
everyone. Doug Daly is my name. I'm here on behalf of the Coomer family. I think the purpose for being here today is to not necessarily oppose the amendments that are being made to the current ordinance, because we believe that they are fair and that follows the industry standard. However, the significant concern we all have is the discussion that was had amongst the council members at last week's meeting, and the apparent subjective belief that the measurement should go from door to door rather than property line to property line. There is a reason for passing ordinances, and that's so people have something to follow. And so if that's the position that you all believe is the most appropriate way to measure it, then it's our position that that is the ordinance that should be passed, and not just this as an end around to be able to speed up the process. Because essentially, if the intent is to get this passed so that we can speed up the process so these people can move on, but if it's your intent otherwise to grant a variance because you personally believe that the measurement should go from door to door, is not the appropriate way to handle this, because you're skirting the actual discussion amongst the community by passing one thing but doing another thing. And if you actually propose the language that was discussed last week, then there could be more of a dialogue with the community with regard to what the appropriate statute and ordinance should be. Again, as Mr. Coomer mentioned, the purpose of these statutes and ordinances is to protect the public, not necessarily the people who are applying for the licenses or the authority to do business. And so just want you to keep that in mind when this matter does come back before you, because the issue at hand will require an ordinance, or excuse me, a variance. And the variance issue is going to come down to the fact that they are still going to be outside of the requirement, the zoning setback of 1,000 feet from another establishment, based upon the ordinance that you are passing here tonight. And we just want you to keep that in mind, because we'll be back and we'll be making the same argument a few weeks from now. And so we just want you to hear us tonight, and so you take that into consideration when you are deliberating how you're going to view the variance request in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, any questions for Mr. Daly? Yeah, thank you. Lori? Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, you bet. Okay. Further discussion by council? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Move to adopt. Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice to adopt, second by Mr. Allen. Discussion? You want to say anything on this? Okay. Roll call, please.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Charles. Aye. Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're adjourned.